Hi there, my name is Gavin, and I am the Gay Men's Sexual Health and Harm Reduction Coordinator at ACT, and I'm super excited to be presenting this information with you on behalf of the investigators, where I got the opportunity to explore community satisfaction amongst guys who party and play. So let's talk a little bit about the history and the relationship that substance use has had with queer men. In the recent history, it was criminalized to be gay, and so a lot of gay men had to find unique and innovative ways to connect, whether it be through cruising or in bars or bathhouses. And so a lot of these spaces were often not sober. And we see even now that there aren't a lot of sober spaces, even while it's been decriminalized to be gay. We also have new technologies to connect online, and yet the relationship that queer men have to substances continues to endure, and substances continue to be relevant in the lives of queer men. And so this is because of the fact that substances opens a doorway into pleasure, coping with trauma, self-expression, and it can also help support queer men escape from life and self-medicate. And so what is party and play? Party and play is a specific set of queer men who engage in substance use in the context of sex, and it usually involves a specific set of substances like crystal meth and GHB. So why do gay men party and play? It's for similar reasons why all gay men engage in substances, but it's to elevate the experience of sensation from sex, and it's also to allow for kinkier play that wouldn't otherwise happen sober. P&P, guys who P&P can also report greater senses of community and connection. Some possible drawbacks to P&P are worth noting that sometimes those connections are superfluous and maybe only lasting for a moment and not thereafter when things are sober. And there can be consequences to other aspects of life, such as health and having sober sex. So my question was, do gay guys who engage in party and play or chemsex feel more satisfied with community than guys who do not? And I did this through a chi-square analysis in R, and we identified party substances as not just crystal meth and GHB, but we also included substances that are often mixed or used in party and play scenes, such as cocaine, ketamine, MDMA, erectile drugs, and poppers. People were asked if they had used particular substances in the last 6 months. So if they had used substances prior to that, they weren't included in the survey. So this is our results. In this graph, we can see on the y-axis community satisfaction. On the x-axis, we have the variables that we explored. The little asterisk represents a significant relationship. Orange represents yes, blue represents no. We see that for those people engaging in any substances, there was no significant difference in satisfaction amongst those who don't engage in substances at all. However, we wanted to narrow that down and rule out substances like alcohol, weed, and opioids to our party substances. And we found that there was a significant difference in community satisfaction amongst those who engage in party substances than compared to those who use substances but don't use party substances. And that difference was about 7%. Then we looked at sexual activity because we know chemsex is involving sex and using substances at the same time. And so sexually active guys who had his partner in the last year, at least one, they reported a higher sense of satisfaction than those who were not sexually active. Now we looked into that sexually active population and we looked at the variable of party substances, and that we found a greater sense of satisfaction amongst those who use party substances and were sexually active than amongst those who were sexually active but not using party substances. And that difference was also around 7%. Now we zoned in and we looked at amongst those who were using party substances and were sexually active, what about those who were doing party substances while having sex, so therefore engaging in chemsex or party and play? And we found that that community satisfaction was high at 64.7%, and it was significantly higher than the satisfaction of those who were engaging in party substances and or were having sex, but not doing them at the same time. And this indicates that the act of chemsex actually might lead to a greater community satisfaction, or that there's a relationship there at least. So this has various implications. It suggests that there is this invisible population amongst those who use substances that are actually coping quite well. And maybe it's because of this sense of community that guys who use party substances have. So community is this protective factor for individuals from the adverse effects of maybe using substances. We also had this other implication or exploration that there's perhaps a greater sense of satisfaction in a context like Pride, where people are reporting their satisfaction in the middle of a party. People may be using substances before answering the survey or using substances after, and so they're more likely to report a greater community satisfaction in a party setting when they are at community space and they might be using substances before or after taking the survey. So also community satisfaction may differ between those who are actively using versus those who had historically used. This we didn't explore guys using substances before 6 months, and so that might also shape the results. All this kind of implicates to me that queerness is a political identity that creates group cohesion, but maybe PNP and identifying as a part of the PNP community may also create group cohesion for similar reasons. You know, we've seen that in being gay, that there's solidarity between queers living in a world that is heteronormative. There's also solidarity amongst queer guys in the PNP scene using substances in a world that is drug prohibitive. And queer communities have often internalized stigma and revitalized it into positive expressions. And so maybe that's also happening in PNP communities, where PNP serves to destigmatize experiences of substance use for the broader community and connect all of us with our deeper desire for connection with each other and with our broader communities. So I think that's all for me, and I'm looking forward to some questions. Thank you so much.